I gather that you do agree with the concept of fair reflection under our rules?
The concept of fair reflection? Mr. Ickes, you'll have to educate me on what the concept of fair reflection is. Did Mr. Ickes not respond?
He chose not to speak further.
The Democrats are throwing the election away. For what? An inadequate black male?
Well, that's not actually accurate.
And they think we won't turn and vote for McCain. Well, I got news for all of you. McCain will be the next president of the United States.
Welcome back to the Ben Barrack Show on News Radio 1400 KTEM. Marshall, you got a call there. That was South Florida Congressman Robert Wexler, who also happens to be the Florida co-chairman of the Barack Obama presidential campaign while he was at the DNC Rules and Bylaws Committee meeting back on May 31st, duking out with Hillary Clinton hack Harold Ickes. And then you heard Hillary supporter Harriet Christian after finding out the Florida delegates would only receive half of a vote. Well, joining us now is Republican Edward Lynch, who is running to defeat Robert Wexler this November in District 19, which is in South Florida. I encourage you to go to www.edwardlynch08.com. That's EDWARDLYNCH08.com. Good morning, Edward, and thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Mr. Barrack. How are you?
Outstanding, outstanding. Now, your race against Wexler is sort of like that. You've got two Democratic camps that are kind of duking it out, and you have a similar situation in your race as you're squaring off against not only Wexler, but another Democrat.
Absolutely. In fact, we're benefiting from the fact that the other guy that's in the race is running as an independent. So he's running straight through to the primary. I mean, all the way through the primary and into the general.
Do you foresee a deal being worked out between those two where one drops out, where Graber, I think it is, drops out?
Never. There's actually Ben Graber ran against Robert Wexler in the very beginning, and ironically enough, Ben was favored to win the race, and he was in a very tight race with another Democrat, and Bob Wexler came in and pretty much won with a plurality and split the vote. So we're looking at a similar situation now. So to quote Mr. Wexler in his book, irony is sometimes quite beautiful, isn't it?
Well, and you mentioned that we spoke the other day, and you mentioned that his book is actually your playbook.
Yeah, it's our new campaign manual. I have to thank him for writing it. We're going to have to edit a few things for him. He wrote some things down that he kind of contradicts here and there. In fact, in one of the clips that you just played, he contradicts a few things. So yeah, we're excited about his giving us his playbook, so to speak.
Now, you had also told me that you had an interesting conversation with Mr. Wexler about negative campaigning and such.
Yeah, actually, he had called me up to welcome me to the race, which I thought was very gracious, and we discussed how we had met once before, and we talked about our families and whatnot, and made nice talk. And I told him, I look forward to the race, and that it's something that I'm not the kind of person that's going to go after someone necessarily in a negative way. I'd rather he just run on his record. I'll run on what I've done in the past, and we'll let the voters decide. And Bob mentioned to me that he tended to be somewhat of a negative campaigner, and that he likes to go that way. And in his book, he mentions that also, and he tells us actually how he's going to do it. And I mentioned to him that I cut my teeth doing business in New York City with some people. So when he's ready to go, I guess I'll be ready to go, and hopefully he doesn't get there. But sometimes you got to watch out who you challenge to a basketball game and make sure it's not Michael Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. And you mentioned business in New York. You're not a politician, are you?
No, and when I'm done with being in Congress, I don't want to be known as someone who's been a politician. I'd want to be known as someone that was a statesman or someone that was an American that was running to make America better.
Well, it just seems like, and I think you agree with this, the level of corruption that exists in our government, in Congress, just everywhere you look, there's just people getting busted or doing unethical things. It's just everywhere you look. What would you say to the strategy? Because I've heard this bandied about. What would you say to the strategy of, you know what? let's just vote every incumbent out of office. Just every regardless of party, let's just unite and just vote every incumbent out. How would that look?
Well, that would look exactly how our founding fathers had planned it to look. None of our founding fathers, when they first became congressmen and representatives and presidents, vice president, none of them were incumbents. And what they had in mind was getting people involved in the government that are truly people. When Abraham Lincoln said that government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth, he was talking about what the founding fathers came up with. When the founding fathers wrote in the preamble was an introduction to the Constitution, and they said, "We the people of the United States," they were talking about the people, not the special interest groups. And, what we have right now is a really terrible situation. And the only special interest group that should be in Washington, D.C. right now should be the American people. And if we started with that attitude and we started going in that direction and we actually removed all of the incumbents, I think that's exactly what our founding fathers planned for our country.
Well, and you had also mentioned, back to your business career, you had also mentioned that you were successful and you're retired and you play as hard as anyone, and you don't need to do this from that standpoint. You're perfectly happy. So why did you jump into this thing?
Well, originally I jumped into it. I started looking into politics because I was consulting for someone and then ultimately wound up opening a minority-owned business doing work in the Department of Veterans Affairs in some of the medical centers. When I saw the level of corruption in there, the waste of money, the inept people working for our government, especially in Miami, which is of 153 medical centers rated number 1, I'm scared to see what the other 152 look like. And when I saw the poor treatment of our veterans, I was appalled. So I started looking into this, and like you mentioned, I really never thought about running for politics ever. But I'm doing it for completely selfish reasons, and I'll give you a perfect example. Just happened. My daughter just walked into my office just before I went on, and she said, "Daddy, I just wanted to say good morning, and I wanted to say good luck." And, I have a boy and a girl, twins, Edward and Isabella. I'm so proud of them, and I am absolutely doing this for them. A politician is someone who it used to be a politician was someone who did what they could do for our generation, and a statesman was someone that did something for the next generation. And that's why I'm getting involved in politics. I want to make a better place. I want to be involved in fixing so many of the problems and the corruption that we have in our government. I want to get involved so that my kids aren't worried about, or I'm not worried about my kids getting drafted or going to war or paying $15, $20 a gallon gas or being held hostage by the OPEC countries, or dealing with the issues that we're dealing with now that we should have dealt with a long time ago, but dealing with them again when they get older.
Yeah, you had mentioned, so the VA, the whole VA hospital thing is kind of the spark that got the ball rolling, huh? Yeah,
it's incredible what goes on there. I mean,
has Wexler spoken about anything about the VA hospital situation?
Well, he's a big proponent of the VA system, is what he claims, yet when you look at it, the two VAs that are closest to his district, and neither one are truly in our district, but they are just absolutely corrupt. It's a shame. It's just a sin what goes on there and the treatment of our veterans. These guys went over there and they fought for us, and wherever there was, it could have been Vietnam, it could have been Germany, it could have been Japan. I mean, there are some of those guys still alive. And even now what's going on with the Iraq war, these guys are coming back, and they're coming back to something that is way less adequate than what it should be. And considering the amount of money that we spend there, in fact, one of the issues that's important for America is the universal health care issue. Well, we know it doesn't work because we have it already. It's called the Department of Veterans Affairs. And if it can't work for 7.9 million people, that's how many veterans receive medical care, at a cost of over $64 billion a year, with over 250,000 employees that are in the government working for the VA system, how are we going to do that for 300 million people? It just won't happen.
Yeah. We're speaking with Edward Lynch. I encourage you to go to his website, edwardlynch08.com. He's running against the Florida chairman of the Obama campaign and incumbent Robert Wexler.